Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to Civilsdaily IAS in our news streak on 4th of January 2023. So this is Venus Avtani and today we'll be discussing some important news articles as well as editorial articles which have come up here. So look, this is about ULFA. There has been a tripartite pact which has been signed between the three stakeholders in Assam regarding peace in Assam. So we'll discuss about the historical evolution of this journey as well as about some important developments here. We'll try to understand about the mapping portions of Assam as well. Apart from that, we have other news articles also here. There is a judgment which has come up on Securities and Exchange Board of India, and this is related to Adani and Hindenburg. So that we'll also discuss here. Apart from that, there are other news articles also. There's very good news article regarding science and tech regarding six space missions about to be happening in 2023 internationally. So that we'll discuss. We have in coming the presence of tigers in Baksa Tiger Reserves, and there we'll discuss about the tiger reserves, difference between national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, tiger reserves, and so on and so forth. That what are the steps for tiger conservation. The next development here will be about unemployment, employment, as well as the need for skill development. So, multiple articles related to the same theme have come up, either in editorial or news. Like this is an editorial about manufacturing and services sector, about employment primarily, then about skill development, and then we'll connect all of this to the direct benefit transfers here. So, that is one news. And then we'll also slightly go into polity portions about elections, about voter verifiable paper audit trails. That is also important to discuss. So that we'll discuss and then we'll end up this session. So, hello, you can say good morning in the comment boxes if I'm audible to you people. Hello, good morning, good morning. So, yes, Jatin. So, just tell me one thing. Are you aware about the Assam portions? Acha, how many of you have heard about Kaziranga National Park? How many of you, have read about geography portions like about Brahmaputra River in Assam? So, that we'll go into. But first of all, let us look at the development. So, what has happened here? There has been a tripartite pact basically. Tripartite pact among some players. There are some key players here among whom there has been this pact. Now, this pact is between central government, the state government, and the United Liberation Front of Assam. So, what is the issue here? What is the historical development? This stakeholder has been demanding a separate state of their own. Why there has been this demand? As you might be able to recall, there was this Bangladesh war in East Pakistan, the then East Pakistan, in 1971. In 1971, Bangladesh became independent. So, Amod, you might have remembered it that, after that, there was a lot of refugee crisis. Once we had discussed it also, I think, as far as I could remember, about refugees coming from Bangladesh, the then East Pakistan to Assam regions. And then there was this fears about change of demography here. So that was there. And then after that, there were also fears about, because there was continuous migration from the Bengali areas to Assam even during the British times. So there was continuous migration from Bengal also. So there were fears that the demography of Assam will change. So in that context, there was, in 1979 to 1985, there were demands. There was a movement in Assam. As you might be remembering, there was a movement in Assam. Praveen, do you remember it? We all of have read it in Bipin Chandra's India Since Independence. There's a long explanation there how the movement developed, how was the student protest also there, all Assam Students Union, that protest, and how at that point of time Assam Garit Parishad also developed. And at that point of time, afterwards, what happened? 1985, we had Assam Accord. We tried to resolve the issue, but still the issue was not resolved. And after that, what we have, witnessed here, ULFA, there have been multiple activities by ULFA. First of all, try to recall that 1980s, it was a time of great crisis in terms of sovereignty crisis for India. We had a strong prime minister. We had the Gandhis, Indira Gandhi. But still, at that point of time, we had Khalistani issue going on. That means Pakistan had started supporting these type of elements into India. And now connect this to Assam also. Why? Because in today's editorials as well as news, this has been clearly mentioned in one of these newspapers and editorials that how Ulfa had been supported by Pakistani activities here. In fact, it is said that the Ulfa chief who has been mentioned here, he also met Osama bin Laden once. So this is there that they had links, they were supported. So as well now, in this context, what will happen? Can you guess what will happen next when they'll be supported by such type of activities? When during Kargil war, now this is also mentioned here that they, in Kargil war, what happened? These Ulfa people, they were constantly were against India. That means they were supporting Pakistan in one of their periodicals called Swadhinta. So this was there that they were also supporting Pakistan. So this happened. So what will happen? What will happen now? Now what will happen is that there will be multiple activities in 1990s inside Assam. There will be terrorism, kidnapping, ransom, and all of that activities against the state. There will be violence. So after that, what will happen? There will be reaction by the Indian government also, Indian forces. The Indian government will try to control the situation here. And when we'll try to control the situation, what will happen? Then we'll try to have some talks here. So the talks will go on here. So when will the talks be concluded? What was the landmark event? What was the landmark incident here? We should remember about 2011, the year of 2011 here, because at that point of time, what happened? There was finally one of the factions here. The talk started in early 2000s, but it was not that successful. After long efforts, one of the factions came out of Ulfa and they said that we'll talk with the Indian government. So 2011, they had suspension, ceasefire agreement between the two factions, between government as well as Ulfa. And that faction, which had ceasefire agreement, finally, that faction also came out of Ulfa. They were actually expelled, but they continued the talks. And finally, these type of factions, their strength has increased. And in 2023, they have agreed for a tripartite agreement with multiple provisions. So around 10 to 13 years earlier, there was only ceasefire agreement. But now there has been a tripartite agreement here, a proper tripartite agreement with a resolution to the issue, that how do we resolve the issue basically. So this has happened in today's time. So Praveen, were we able to understand what did I wanted to mention here? Now we'll look at the major provisions here. What have been the major provisions with respect to this Ulfa Pact? So what has happened here? So you see, what has happened here is that because these people, as we have understood, these were fearing that there will be demographic changes. So now what has happened? The government has tried to allay these concerns. How? By the help of delimitation. Sometimes back, they have had some delimitation in Assam, reorganizing the constituencies, trying to ensure that the strength of Bengali Muslims in most of these constituencies that does not impact on the overall result of elections by bifurcating these sections of populations, reorganizing, and by trying to increase the strength of the indigenous communities through reorganization of your territorial constituencies in the state assembly, in the state assembly of Assam. This has happened here. Are we able to understand, as Jaswal, what did I wanted to say? Or do I need to repeat it again? Just mention it. So their demands, as has been mentioned here, of Jati, Mati, and Bheti. That means community, land, and foundation to retain the political power in the hands of the so-called original people who have been the original people from centuries, even before the British and the Bengalis came up. This has been tried to address here. Although now, because there have been centuries since Bengalis have come up, so they have become sort of indigenous, but still, because of the Bangladesh issue overall, Bengali Muslims are considered to be outsiders. So that was the major point of contention, the bone of contention of Ulfa, which we have tried to resolve here. So look, this is the mentioned here that 106 out of these assembly states, they try to accommodate the indigenous communities here. who are eligible from centuries for the representation here. So this has been mentioned here. Apart from that, what has been the issue here? Apart from that, do you remember Citizenship Amendment Act? Citizenship Amendment Act. What were the major provisions of Citizenship Amendment Act, people? Any of you, if you can mention? So, as Jaiswal, what was Citizenship Amendment Act about? Which communities were given the Indian citizenship in as per the Citizenship Amendment Act into India after some relaxations? Which communities were given the citizenship here? This is related to this issue. Why? Because when Amendment Act came up, these communities again, Ulfa was very fearful that now what will happen? Again, the geography of Assam will try to, again the demography will change. So then what did happen? There were exemptions now. So it has been mentioned in this accord now that these exemptions will be continued regarding having exemptions for the northeastern states, that these will be kept out of the provisions of CAA, and then there will be NRC, and from this NRC the illegal immigrants will be identified and they'll be sent back. So they'll be deported. So this is again one of the major provisions of this act, of this accord, which has been signed in recent times. This is there. Now, apart from that, what are the other major provisions here? Because to drive these people away from insurgent activities, there should be some support to these people in form of financial assistance, right? Financial assistance is also important. Nice, nice, nice. So yes, non-Muslim migrants. Yes, CAA was with respect to the different communities, 6 communities from primarily the neighborhood countries, and they were, they'll be provided citizenship. So that is there. Now, what type of, you see, because we have to provide some assistance to them in terms of financial assistance, funding of infrastructure in these areas, so that these people are able to take advantage from the fruits of development in their areas, and then we are able to mainstream them. So this has happened. So this is there, that there is a comprehensive package for investment of around 1.5 lakh crore for overall development of Assam, to be able to address the demands of the people. And what are the components here? The components also include the guidelines and methodology for delimitation, which was conducted in 2023. And then we have also seen about the Citizenship Amendment Act. So this is the idea. But there are some challenges also. What could be the challenges, people? Amut, what could be the challenges as per you of this type of accord? Have all the sections agreed to this? Has Paresh Barua, as the main head, who is also said to have met Osama bin Laden, has he been, has he been agreed to all this? Has he agreed to all of these provisions here as per the act? Or has he been come into ambit? So no, he has not agreed. He is not part of this accord, so he remains main head of the Ulfa, the main Ulfa, and he remains hidden in the jungles of Myanmar. So it is to be further to discuss the geography of Assam here. So listen, now look, this is Assam here. Are you able to look at this? Is this map visible to all of Assam here? So we have Arunachal Pradesh as a state here. Now we have Bhutan as a country here. Now there is Meghalaya. You might be aware of Garo, Khasi, and Jayantia hills in Meghalaya. So look, there is Brahmaputra. Where does Brahmaputra rise from? It rises from Tibet. Now Brahmaputra rises and then goes into this gorge and then merges with Dibang and Lohit river here. All this is geography portion. This is important. This is basic. So this is Dibang. This is Lohit. And look, now this will turn here. This will go into the plains. And look how different tributaries are coming. There are multiple tributaries. Like look, right bank tributaries. You need to be differentiated. The difference between right bank and left bank tributaries need to be very clear here. So there is Subansiri, there is Kameng, there is Manas, there is Sankosh. So this is there. Now, someone who is writing, ma'am has queued in the boxes. I'm not able to read your name, but please tell what are the left bank tributaries here. Students, what are the left bank tributaries of Brahmaputra here? So, what are these tributaries? There is Dhansiri, there is Kapili, there are other such tributaries, left bank tributaries coming into the Brahmaputra river. Important areas, people, look, this is Kaziranga National Park. This is the place for one horned rhino. I would ask one question. People, do you know about Lord Curzon? What was the contribution of Lord Curzon vis-a-vis Bengal? Do tell me. Till then, I'll tell a short fact here. So, Lord Curzon was crucial for protection of one-horned rhinoceros in this area, and then afterwards, this led to formation of Kaziranga National Park. How? He was an imperialist, but his wife Mary Curzon had just requested him, looking at the state of this area, that one-horned rhinoceros are declining. So she requested her. So she requested his husband, Lord Curzon, to please do some conservation efforts. And then there came tall grasses in these areas. There is presence of elephants in these areas. There is presence of one-horned rhinos, and so on and so forth. So this is there. There are multiple hills here. There is Mikir Hills here. Karbi Anglong region is there. To the south, there are Kachar Hills. We have Bareil Range also, some presence of Bareil Range in Assam. Then we have Manas. Have you heard about Manas National Park? Which are the important, unique species presence in this area of Manas and Sankosh River? Look, Manas comes first, then comes the Sankosh River. And from where both these rivers originate from? These rivers originate from your Bhutan region. Very nice, Ronak. Partition of Bengal. Yes, Lord Curzon was related to partition of Bengal. That is nice. So this is good. Now tell me the name of an island located, look, around Guwahati. So when this Brahmaputra takes a turn and comes closer to your Meghalaya region, there is presence of city of Guwahati. So around Guwahati, there is world's largest riverine island, people. What is the name of this island? Yes, Buri, Dahing, Dhansiri. These are also the tributaries, left bank tributaries of Assam, of Brahmaputra. Very nice. So now tell me what is the name of that island in the comment boxes. So this is overall the area here. Look how Kachar plains are separated from your Bareil ranges here. And this is how this overall pervades here. We'll further see today about Sankosh River. There is one news article about that also. Not exactly about Sankosh River, but little bit of facts. So, that is there. Now, there is this presence of, look, there is this, because, there is one article about explanation of book. Now I understand, for exam, we don't read explanations of book, but there's a presence of one community which is written that we can remember out of this, that there were some important figures. Ulfa had dispossessed communities taken along with it. When Ulfa was resisting the Indian state, they took motoks also along with them. Now, who are these motoks? Look, there is these Britishers which came up in 19th century. We know, people. Peacock Island. Have you heard about Majuli Island, Jaiswal? S. Jaiswal, have you heard about Majuli Island? So that is what I wanted to say. That is Majuli Island. That is what I wanted to discuss. So there is this Motoks here. Who were these Motoks? When British came up in Assam, they tried to have tea plantations. By the way, why do we grow tea in Assam region? Why do we have tea in the Assam region? Why do we grow it in the Darjeeling Hills areas? Why, what is the reason for it? Just try to think about it. So when they came up, these Motoks as people lost their lands here. They were living here right since the Ahom kingdom, earlier Ahom kingdom, from which Assam name has come up, and then they lost their lands, and that is why they also, Ulfa people also took this Motoks along with them and tried to resist. So this was the idea about. So as Jaiswal, Majuli Island is formed around Guwahati through Brahmaputra river itself. So look, this is Brahmaputra, this is Guwahati. So Majuli Island is in Brahmaputra itself, largest riverine island, and it has multiple. There is this ecological importance of Majuli Island. So that is why we often read about it, and you can further read about it in your geography portions. So nice, Ronak. Nice, you have heard. So I hope we are able to understand what we are discussing. So little bit we discussed about geography here, mapping portions, the Ulfa, the history, the two pacts here, two important years about those pacts, 2011, 2013. Now I would return back. So if you're able to understand, you can write all clear in the comment boxes or clear. So I'll move to the next article here. The next article here is about a landmark Supreme Court judgment on Securities and Exchange Board of India's investigations into the Hindenburg and Adani case. So, what is the issue here? There are certain important happenings here, and we'll try to understand it from the timeline given in the newspapers itself. What is the timeline here? Look, there is this Hindenburg Research Group. It was formed. What was the year? Because this, why we are discussing it in the start of this year, in the start of earlier year, January 2023, 1 year since now, there was this discussion on Hindenburg. Some news had come up now because the judgment has come up now. So it becomes important for your exam also. 1.5 years since this has happened, but apart from that judgment also, so that's why it becomes important. So Praveen, just ask me just tell me one thing. So when was the formation of Hindenburg, and why is it called so? Matlab, what was the year, and what is it actually Hindenburg? What it does? Any of its objective? If you can mention, first of all, formation, its year, and objective. So just tell in the comment boxes this. Till then, I'll just tell what Hindenburg did in terms of Adani. So Hindenburg had, just released a report at that point of time, 1 year back, that Gautam Adani, as the third richest corporate in the world, is having the largest corporate fraud in the history of the world. That means he said that these Adani enterprises, they are having a fraud. In 3 years, these Adani enterprises, they had they had a profit, and they risen to a huge level, and Adani became the third richest man. Their valuation increased significantly. So okay, as Jaiswal, I'll slow down the speed further. So their valuation increased, and then there was huge controversy here. And what did they say? What type of misallegations, what type of mismanagement or wrongful practices they are doing? Now, in this context, I would just like you to imagine you have your own company. Why we are discussing it? Because these concepts are important for your prelims exam. We'll also discuss about the SEBI regulations, which are in news, and I'll let you explain about the important concepts here, basic concepts. But as of now, just imagine you are a person, you are the director of a company. This is the board of your company, and this is a very elite company. You have this company with you. Now, in terms of fraud, what type of frauds you could do here? Because this is the company, this is listed in the market. Let's suppose this is listed. I'll explain what is the meaning of listed, but just as of now, just try to tell me that if they are taking funds from the public is investing shares here, what type of frauds can they do with the with the public? So first of all, they can hide information. Naturally, you can hide some information. आप information ही छुपा दो कुछ. नेक्स्ट इज, आपको गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स भरना पड़ता है. कंपनीज टैक्स भरती है नहीं भरती है बताओ. जस्ट टेल मी वन थिंग, एस जयसवाल, कंपनीज टैक्स भरेंगे ना? आप टैक्स भरोगे. इमेजिन आप टैक्स भरने में क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट कर सकते हो. व्हाट कुड बी द टाइप ऑफ फ्रॉड यू कैन क्रिएट ड्यूरिंग फाइलिंग ऑफ टैक्सेस? व्हाट टाइप ऑफ फ्रॉड्स? मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग कर दो, शेल कंपनीज बना दो. Shell companies, make up some shell companies, show that these companies which are having deriving some profits, either set their base in Panama or set their base in Cayman Islands or such geographies जहां पर टैक्स बहुत कम लगता है. Transfer these profits to this entity here and then show it to Indian government कि हमारी domestic company को उतना profit नहीं हुआ है. These companies, these shell companies, these companies are having profits, and then यहाँ पर आपको टैक्स भरना नहीं है. So what did you do? You, with the help of shell companies, you try to evade the taxes here with the formation of shell companies. You can also involve in hawala transfers to evade taxation here. That is also money laundering. ये आप कर सकते हो. बाकी आप बहुत सारी ऐसी मैल प्रैक्टिसेस कर सकते हो in terms of frauds with the government as well as the investors. Yes, Ronak, so this is what I wanted to say, that the company, they should submit tax, but often there are mismanagements here. as we see with big corporates also in history as examples. Now what happened? Hindenburg had told that these type of they had raised more than 80 questions on Adani, and they said that these are the types of frauds they are doing, like having some shell company in these countries, and then these shell companies, like there was one shell company who was investing around 95% of their funds into Adani Enterprises itself. No such other investment in any other such firm. So they said that why a single company is investing all of its profits, all of its funds into Adani, and that too based in a questionable geography around the world. I mean, these islands famous for their money laundering, tax evasion, and how this has been functioning. Matlab, there was a lot of miscalculations, mismanagement here, which was highlighted by Hindenburg. They also had on Gautam Adani's relatives, like brother, brother-in-law, multiple people. They had these, that his, one of his relatives was arrested twice for tax fraud. Still, then he was made the manager of the company. Then after that, one of his relatives was involved in money laundering and formation of shell companies. So they tried to ask multiple questions, and with a lot of confidence, the Hindenburg had mentioned that look, they are doing frauds. And basically, what is the model of Hindenburg? Students, till now, I haven't got the answers to my questions asked. When was Hindenburg formed and what is the objective? So just answer something so that I could value add here. So when, year, and objective. This is written here. So till then, I'll come back to the story. So what did Hindenburg say? They are doing fraud with confidence. So they said that their share price will decline now because we have exposed this fraud. We are making investigations, difficult investigations, trying to acquire secret papers and so on and so forth from past few years. Now this company's share will decline. So because they'll decline, we will do some short selling here. And here comes the concept of short selling, because this is the idea of Hindenburg itself, that they do short selling. Once they expose a company, then the company's share prices fall. Since 2017, they have done it in multiple companies. So then the company's share prices fall, and then they earn profits by short selling. And that is why we need to understand the concept here. What exactly do we mean by short selling? So here I would ask one thing. So because no answers are coming, I would only say that this Hindenburg was formed up in 2017. This is a financial research group, a company for financial research, whose objective is to expose the financial frauds happening in corporates around the world. Because look, when the financial frauds, when the corporates doing financial frauds, particularly which are linked to the stock markets, when they are exposed that these people are doing fraud, then their value will decline in the share market. And in future, because their originality, their reality comes up, their value declines. That is why in future multiple investors could be prevented to invest. Multiple small investors could be prevented to invest in these companies in future, saving the collapse of the stock market itself. So what is the objective of such type of financial research groups? That they want to avoid stock market disasters. They say that just like the failure of the Hindenburg air flight, because this Hindenburg, originally there was a disaster in 1937. No need to go into that, just that this was a man-made disaster. So they said that these type of stock market collapses which has happened around the world, these are man-made disasters, and we can prevent them if we expose the companies doing mismanagement already. Yes, well, this was found in 2017. Good. So we can prevent the companies, we can prevent the investors, we can prevent the stock market collapse by exposing the companies which are doing fraud. So this is the idea here. Now comes the concept of short selling, people. So people, what can you understand by short selling? Acha, any one of you has done any trading in stock markets earlier? आपने कभी stock market में as retail traders invest किया है? Do you know someone who invests in stock market? अच्छा, एक simple सा idea है. I'll just explain it like suppose there is a random company, some random share of around rupees 100. This is there. Now just tell me one thing. This is rupees 100. you know that this is bound to grow in future. This is you're confident, you're very confident, this is you, and you know you are an expert in financial markets. You know that this is now is bound to grow in future. The share prices, this will go to 150. What will you do at this point of time? This is today, this is at today, it is 100. What will you do with the share? You will naturally, you will try to buy it, है ना? We try to buy it, buy the share, and in future when it becomes 150, we try to sell it naturally. So we'll earn some profit of 50 rupees by first buying it and then selling it. But there's a catch here. What if you know, because Hindenburg knew the same, that look, this is 150 today, I know that the share price is bound to decline. If it is to decline, how do I earn profits? This is the dilemma. How do I earn profits from it? Particularly if I have not held any shares. Suppose market is going upwards, share prices are going upwards, like in stock markets. So we know that there is this, there is this entire, the market is going to go upwards, so we can have profit. But what if you know that it will go downwards? How will you earn profit? So here, as so Bhupendra, what we can do here? So the reverse of it, the reverse of buy and sell. Now what will happen? The company will sell first. The company will try to sell the shares of that, of that entity, the shares, before even buying it. Yes, this is the idea, that you sell it even before buying it, and then at a later, time period, when it has gone further from 150 to rupees 100, then you buy it. Now imagine you sold it minus 150. Suppose you sell one share only for simplicity. Now you buy it plus 100. So you are selling it ultimately at 50 rupees of profit. This is the idea here. So look, eventually there is profit. But now there's a confusion here, that how do we sell a share even before buying? And many people might be confused here. How many of you are confused that how do we sell it even before buying? Suppose I have to bought a house, or suppose I have to sell a car or a house. First I have to buy it, then only I can sell it. Until and unless I don't have it with me, how do I sell it? This is the idea here. So there are some regulations here. There's a process here. This does not happen that you buy, you sell it today and after 15 days you are buying it. This happens intraday. That means within a day itself. That means today when the market opens and when you sold the entity, sold the share, at the end of today only you will have to buy it. This is automatic. Automatically this happens by system itself, that if you do this type of thing, if you opt for short selling, you have to buy it after selling it. Matlab, there is no need for possession of that share entity itself, because on the same day, first you are selling it, then you are buying it. Matlab, you sold without the share having it first with you, and then you bought it as a measure of neutralization. Matlab, you sold, then you bought, the sum of it has been zero. That means you don't own the shares here. You don't get the possession of any share here. And this is the idea of short selling. Yes, Bhupendra. So this happens intraday. Very nice. So this is the idea here. This is the concept. So what did Hindenburg do? They said that look, the shares are bound to come down. So we'll short sell here and we earn profits. This is their motive here. They often do this. They first expose the corporate frauds and then they short sell and earn profits. This is their mode of earning revenue. Now, cutting back to the present, what has happened in present? Look, this happened 1 year back. Now there will be investigations. There will be investigations by SEBI itself, Securities and Exchange Board of India. Till then, people do tell me in the comment boxes. Uh, in the comment boxes that when was SEBI formed? Is SEBI a statutory body? Have we formed SEBI by a law? And what was the year of formation of SEBI? So till then I'll explain it. So look, SEBI had investigations. Now what happened, that there will be these investigations, and then Supreme Court also, judiciary also had a committee that we'll be committing some investigations into these frauds. So the petitioners mentioned here that these investigations are not impartial, and that is why we should transfer these investigations from SEBI to an SIT. SIT often is formed by Supreme Court itself, independent committee, and that SIT should overview the proceedings which will happen in CBI. So CBI will conduct the investigations. So CBI under the SIT should be the procedure, and to these type of cases, this case now should be transferred from the SEBI. This was mentioned by the petitioners. But now here what is there is that the Supreme Court has mentioned that no, this can't be done. 1992 statutory body, yes, as Jaiswal, this is right. So SEBI, what is there? SEBI, when was it formed, people? It was formed in 1988, but initially it was having very low powers, not a statutory body. Then you might have heard of Harshad Mehta scam. Harshad Mehta scam in 1990s, that happened. So, these type of scams was happening. We had LPG reforms also. So market was also getting broader, investments coming up. So we had then made the SEBI as a statutory body by the help of an act. So SEBI as a statutory body came up in 1992 as a form of financial regulator. Regulator of which type of bodies? Of financial markets, of financial exchanges like National Stock Exchange, like Bombay Stock Exchange, and regulation of markets, regulating companies, having some norms here, that what can be the norms of listed or unlisted companies. We'll discuss all of this, the difference between listed as well as unlisted companies. So coming back to the present time, so what did the Supreme Court say? That look, SEBI, look the structure of SEBI. This is so organized here. So they said that SEBI has conducted most of its investigations. Out of 24, they have concluded 22. Only 2 are left. So SEBI is functioning well. SEBI is impartial, and SEBI, there is no any such pretext. There is no such reason that we should transfer the case from SEBI to CBI. This was what was said, and they said that there is no case for arbitration or violation of the fundamental rights here. Basically, SEBI is working well. That was done. And then they also said that there were some investigations by independent newspaper articles and researchers saying that this is not credible. The overall investigations going on in India are not credible, to which the Supreme Court has mentioned that not all the times these independent newspaper researchers and articles are fair in nature. Not all the time these are fair in nature, right? These can be motivated, particularly when in January 2023, it was the first month when India had conducted the G20 presidency. And India's G20 presidency, there were multiple events happening in January 2023 regarding G20 presidency. So it was said that maybe this was externally motivated because India was excelling in terms of G20 to sort of impact, to sort of give a negative light about India. And who has said this? This has been said by one of the MPs of BJP. One of the spokesperson of BJP. He is associated vice president of Mumbai BJP. So he has mentioned in his article here that look, this was one of the objectives here. So this is how we need to understand that there are multiple perspectives here. So this judgment finally also stating that the committee which was formed by Supreme Court, Justice A.M. Sapre committee, there is no reason to believe that that is impartial, that is functioning partially. They are functioning impartially. This was said by Supreme Court. So now there are multiple perspectives. One might be a negative perspective, one might be a positive perspective. So here, appraising the overall functioning of the SEBI and having this judgment as a pretext that look, SEBI is functioning well. This was this was the opinion of the supporters of the government, that look, SEBI, the Supreme Court has also underlined the fact that they have worked well. And even SEBI's amendment in 2019, they brought 2 amendments. I'll discuss these amendments in detail. FPI and listing obligation and deposition rules. These are, I'll discuss this overall LODR rules here. Both of these are also in today's agenda because These type of terms, when they are loosely mentioned, in your newspapers, they can be asked in exam. What are these? Or some, picking some lines out of the basic provisions of those amendments. So that is important, the regulations. But now the Supreme Court has also mentioned that the SEBI having these amendments is not wrong. This is justified. There was need for such amendments. We'll look into that. That has happened, and they have said that they have confidence in the investigations. And this is also about upholding of separation of powers as per Hitesh Jain. How this is about separation of powers? If any of you can answer, people, what is separation of powers? What do we mean by separation of powers, people? So that way we'll connect here about separation of powers. What is there? Look, there is this SEBI as a regulator. Now, if we give the case from SEBI to CBI, that means CBI is an, we can say that this is part of the executive. And then the petition also raised question on the Judicial Committee, AM Sapre Committee. So then this might also have been problematic, because you are also asking questions on judiciary, other organs of the state here. You are trying to uphold the case in judiciary, and you are trying to implicate different agencies like SEBI here regarding. So you are saying that SEBI is not functioning impartially. That means government is having impact here. So you are questioning the separation of powers and stating the judiciary that you take the entire matter in your hands through formation of an SIT, which will review the functioning of CBI. So this again becomes contrary to the separation of powers principle. So this was also mentioned, apart from the fact that there was this G20 debate also. Now, in this regard, we have to look at the two amendments which we discussed here. What were the two amendments? So basically, in recent times, there have been three basic rules. Because two of them are mentioned, we'll discuss two of them today, people. So here I would ask, what do you mean by FPI, people? Foreign portfolio investments. What is the difference as per you with respect to FPI and FDI? Come on now, I'll need some answers, because this is basic. This is often mentioned in your books, people. What is the difference between FPI and FDI? Till then, I would tell there is one more till the answers come up for this part, because I understand you have to think also. So till the answers come up, I'll mention about listing obligations and disclosure requirement. So here, before trying to understand, just tell me, what do you mean by difference between a listed and unlisted company? Acha, you don't answer it. I'll answer it. You just answer about difference between FDI and FPI. That is simple. This is about, like, there are multiple stock exchanges on which we sell, which we buy the shares. So what happens here, in these stock exchanges, there are some companies which do list themselves. That means they release their IPOs in public. They list themselves in the stock exchanges, and then they release their IPOs, and then they get money from the public. That means there is overall taking of funds from the public by listing of that company. Unlike unlisted, whatever reason might be there, some companies chose, either because of their size or because of some norms, that we will not list ourselves. We will have entire equity, entire ownership of the company with ourselves. We will not list ourselves in stock exchanges, and then further will not have funds invited from the retail investors or investors in market. So regarding this, the SEBI had listing obligations and disclosure requirements, that the listed companies, they should have mentioned, they should have some norms with respect to listing of the companies here, and with respect to disclosure. So what were the basic provisions here? They had said that all the positions having managerial powers, they can enter into an agreement with the shareholders or third party. Suppose shareholder is holding 50 shares of this company. Now these company people want it back. They can have such an agreement. They can in return provide some compensation or profit, but all of this should be known to the SEBI. This should be approved by the SEBI before, so that the shareholders, the innocent investors here, their money is not impacted. their money is not impacted here. This was the idea here. So this is how there were these basic norms about LODR. Likewise, regarding FPI, now since nobody is answering, I'll answer what is difference between FPI and FDI. This is FPI. In a company, if someone is investing less than 10% ownership they have, that is called as FPI. They are seeking for some short-term profits, like aaj kharido, kal becho. Volatile investment. The investment is short-term, volatile, not for long-term. But FDI, when you have more than 10% ownership as per Indian laws, then that is FDI. You are seeking for long-term managerial powers in that company, and you want to grow the company further, and you are there for the long term, for the long game. This is FDI. So this provision was regarding FPI because we observed around the world that there were some basic problems with respect to FPI people, because the FPI was being volatile and we need to constantly have norms for FPI. So they said that in these regulations, so what did SEBI said, that it approved the amendment to permit the investment by the FPIs in certain debentures of even the unlisted companies. As we discussed earlier, this was allowed only in listed companies, but now this also is allowed in unlisted companies. So, Bhupendra, are you able to understand, Bhupendra and S. Jaiswal, what we are trying to discuss? Ignore this term non-convertible debt. That will discuss some other day. Otherwise, you will get confused. Just that much. Just remember basic facts here. That look, in listed companies earlier FPI was allowed. Now SEBI also said that in some form in unlisted companies also, in some type of their equities, FPI is allowed there also. Why we are liberalizing FPI? We need funds for our market. We need funds for our governments. We need funds for our economic growth. That's why FDI co-invest in uh, other countries' companies. As Jaiswal, can you explain it further? Like, what do you want to express here so that I can value add further onto it? So, people, this was the overall, the news as well as the details about this type of news. So, this was it. Finally, the Supreme Court rejected CBI probe into allegations. Same thing is being mentioned here in the article about FPI regulations, as we have discussed, seen, as well as the LODR regulations. Both of them have been upheld here. There have been, because you understand that there were some problems here. There were some need. That is why these amendments did come up by the SBI. So that's there. Now, what are the concerns? Can you, Bhupendra, can you think of some concerns with respect to this stand of Supreme Court? Because Indian Express itself has stated in their editorial, their main short editorial, that look, this is problematic. The Supreme Court has somehow rejected all the claims of the petitioners. That means this allegedly shows complicity with the government. And this also is contrary to the international position. Hindenburg was so confident when it released the report. They also had asked some questions. In return of those questions, Adani to more than 80 questions which were asked. Now, out of more than 80 questions, in around 65 questions, they said that this is public information. This is available mostly with the authorities. And this is in public, you can see it. In others, they evaded somehow that look, this is regarding the shareholders or investors regarding our company, third party people, not about us. So we are not concerned with their. So this is how they try to evade most of the questions. And you can write this as a contrary point, that if this is the case, how come the Supreme Court comes up, completely contrary to it? Although there is another point here, as we have discussed, which you can write in support of such judgments. That look, there is often we have seen that foreign companies have a bias against India, against the developing countries and the companies of developing countries and the growth overall. So when they have such bias, they often try to have these controversial reports. After that, what will happen? Controversy. Then what will happen? There will be share price decline, the losses of the companies, impact on growth of the developing countries. And this is how the developed countries, the MNCs of developed countries, try to have benefit at the loss of the companies of our own countries of the global south. So this is how you can mention it, that there are two perspectives here, and this is to be further seen that how this further processes, how this further develops here. So this is the criticism by Indian Express in today's article about this. So this was regarding this. Now coming to a major news about Baksa Tiger Reserve. So as I mentioned, we'll also discuss in Assam. I mentioned that we'll discuss about Samkoch. So here comes the news regarding that. So now we have said Tiger Zinda hai, boss. Tiger is still alive. This was found to be extinct in Baksa, but now through a few camera traps, through a few camera stills, we have observed the movement of tiger here. That means tiger is alive inside Baksa. It has not gone extinct. Now, where is Baksa? When was Baksa declared as a tiger reserve? What is a tiger reserve? Which act governs the tiger reserve? Little bit about the geography, rivers passing, and so on and so forth. That we'll try to discuss here. So before that, just tell me what is the act related to tiger reserve? Acha, do not tell this. Simple question. What is the body related to tiger reserves in India, which overlooks the overall functioning of the tiger reserves in India? Just answer this one. Just that is sufficient. Coming to Baksa. Now look, this is the map of Baksa as per the water source map. Matlab, the showing of rivers. So look, there are multiple rivers here. There is Jayanti, there is Raidak. These are shorter rivers. And look carefully, this is the Sankosh river flowing through the eastern parts of Baksa, because this is the geography, this is the part of northern Bengal, just close to Bhutan. And we had seen here it is Assam. Now, from here, Assam, there will start off Darjeeling. Here from Bhutan comes Sankosh, and here it flows at the border of Bengal and Assam. And here also there is Baksa Tiger Reserve. So, at the eastern border of Baksa, we have Sankosh as a major tributary of Brahmaputra. Now there is Raidak also, there is Jayanti also as one of the major rivers, and then there are some of the rivers in this part. That is there. This happened, this we saw. Now look, these are all the tiger reserves of India. Nai Samod, there is Tiger Authority, National Tiger Conservation Authority, which overlooks the tiger reserves of India, declaration of tiger reserves, and so on and so forth. And even before Hindenburg started to come by, Hindenburg Securities accumulated short positions. After publication, they booked their profits. Yes, that is the business model of Hindenburg. They invest, and then after that they commit on short selling, and then what they do, they release the report, and then the profits fall, the share prices of the companies fall, and then they earn profits. So yes, this is predatory sort of stock price manipulation, and that can be problematic. And yes, Bhupendra is also right that tiger reserves, which act, under which act we conserve the tiger reserves, Wildlife Protection Act. And to this act in 2006 around, we had amendment, and then we had coming up of National Tiger Conservation Authority here, which overlooks the tiger reserves in India. So how many tiger reserves are there in India, people? How many tiger reserves in India? There are around 53 tiger reserves. The last one to be declared as tiger reserve was Guru Ghasidas Tiger Reserve in Chhattisgarh, which was earlier part of Sanjay Tiger Reserve, Sanjay National Park of erstwhile MP. So this is there. But apart from that, which was the first tiger reserve, people? Which was the first tiger reserve of India? Which was the first tiger reserve? S. Jaiswal of India. Can you mention here? Till then, let us discuss the conceptual part. So here you can see that this is the entire geography of tiger reserve. Now what happens? There is some core area which is inviolable. Some core area. As the name suggests, this is core area. Till then, do answer which is the first tiger reserve of India. So core area. Coming back to core area. Look, core area matlab core. That means invaluable. That means no human presence is allowed here. Tiger reserves, what is their objective? Specifically for the conservation of a single species called tiger, Because tiger are the keystone species. What do you mean by keystone species? People, anyone, what do we mean by keystone species? Keystone means very important. In a building, if you remove the keystone here, the entire building will fall down. So this is important. If you preserve this one brick, this one stone in the building, you can conserve the entire building. Likewise, if you conserve tiger, you conserve the entire ecosystem. This is called as keystone species. For that it is there. So core area, and apart from that, there is also presence of periphery in which some human activity is allowed, grazing, villages, and so on and so forth. But here, poaching and these type of activities, hunting, that is strictly not allowed. There are provisions here. Had Hindenburg Securities been Indian company, it would have been raided by ED and banned by SAB. Yes, that would have been there. You are right, but that's why it is an international company. In fact, Hindenburg had challenged Adani's that you give us legal challenge. If you feel that we are wrong, that then you do court case. So there were long investigations involved, but still, because Supreme Court has taken such a stand, so in mains exam, in your personality test also, if someone is giving personality test there, then in those you have to have a very balanced line that Supreme Court's judgment is after a lot of thought as well as investigation. So whatever is the government, Supreme Court's line, that is safe to take in this matter. That is there. Now we discussed tiger reserve, core area, then periphery. That is there. But now tell me the difference of tiger reserve vis-a-vis, yes, Jim Corbett. Very nice. So Jim Corbett was the first tiger reserve in India in the state of Uttarakhand. If we see it on the map, it is here around Nanda Valley, around around Uttarakhand, the lower Himalayas, the lesser Himalayas, Shivaliks and Pipanjals. Shivalik ranges primarily around that. There is this Jim Corbett presence. Now compared to it, now just tell what is the objective of national parks then? How national parks is different than a tiger reserve? We are aware, okay, this is tiger reserve specifically for tigers. This is national park. That means not just for the tigers, overall for the conservation. But here in national parks, generally, as the difference here suggests, this is taken from a website from Ranthambore Sanctuary. You might be aware about Ranthambore. So on the Ranthambore website, because that is authentic, this is mentioned there. This is taken from there, that a national park, there's generally in national park, there is no presence of periphery. So entire national park is a protected territory, and they often the goal is to preserve the territory's historic as well as natural resources, and they are heavily guarded. Even no one can just walk in. Leave around the periphery, grazing, all these type of activities. No one can even walk here. So this is the idea here. This is the protection, and this requires official authorization. So that is there. But for wildlife sanctuary, because national park, it is for overall conservation, but wildlife sanctuaries generally can be governed either by government or private organizations. They prevent certain birds or certain animals, certain wildlife, a group of them, and then there are few restrictions, but they are also open to public. Unlike the national parks where this is heavily guarded and you require security, you require permissions here for the national parks. Conservation of biodiversity. Yes, national park is overall for conservation of biodiversity. The boundaries are fluid here. So this is the overall difference. You just try to remember between national park, wildlife sanctuary, and tiger reserve little bit. Some of the tiger reserves do remain in news, so that also you try to think of further. I can tell the names here, like Simlipal Tiger Reserve of Odisha, but further you would have to little bit see on the information part, as we have limited time, and I understand you have to prepare for rest of your GS portions also. That's why coming to the next section. What is the next section? The theme. This is related to unemployment, employment, and skill development, all of it related to the first line of your GS paper syllabus: Indian economy, planning, mobilization of resources, inclusive growth, that part, employment, these type of topics here. because all of these are related to Indian economy. So this will be the major theme. Now, what we are trying to say, you might have read it in your static portions earlier, because this is very basic, which we read in economy when we start. Still, I'll repeat it a little bit for the freshers also. So look, this is the idea. Uh, I think Amod might be already knowing it. Amod, why is it so? I would ask this: which sector among the services and the manufacturing? Suppose there are two sectors in economy, out of which will contribute to more jobs here among them? Which will contribute to more jobs here? Amod, can you answer? Or Bhupendra, you can also answer. Anyone can answer. So just try to answer this. This article is slightly describing it. That what has happened in India, particularly after the LPG reforms of 1990s. What happened? Look, we liberalized our economy. Investments were allowed either in infrastructure or in other sectors. Investment was allowed, but the private external investor, when he saw in India that, look, there is so much problem of land acquisition. Even in today, there is problem of land acquisition. Yesterday I gave an example about a reservoir in Andhra Pradesh, about development of a railway zone here. And there also I discussed that there is land dispute here. What was the name of the reservoir which we discussed yesterday? People, you can also tell that. Manufacturing. Yes, right, S. Jaiswal. Manufacturing will promote more jobs here. But what happened in India, opposite happened. That there were land acquisition problems, permission problems. So the industrialist realized, he was smart, that this will cause me a huge loss. So I will not make factories. Rather, I'll what do? There is easy to take permissions with regard to setting up of a computer, setting up of such a office like call center in either Mumbai or Delhi, some metro city. I'll set up a call center and I'll be into service sector. Now, this type of job, service sector, either softwares, call center, IT sectors, these do not provide sufficient jobs. Service sector does not provide sufficient jobs here. So that is why what India witnessed, it witnessed a phenomenon of jobless growth. That means money was coming up. But in services sector, we have huge development of software sector. Indians contribute hugely into the Silicon Valley. The contribution of software Indians in software is great, but in manufacturing we lack. At the same time, China grew. Vietnam also is not having such jobless growth. They are also good in manufacturing. So India had developed the problem of then unemployment. And the youth which is unemployed in India, what he's trying to say here, the writer, that look, the youth are qualified here. They are mostly 12th pass or graduates. They have certain ambitions here, and if those ambitions are not fulfilled, they can't just go to simple manual labor. These are not people who are suited for manual labor. They are educated, sufficiently educated to function, work in factories, manufacturing, but they lack one thing. They lack proper skills here. That is why they are not employable. Apart from the fact that there are lack of manufacturing sectors, funding, factories, etc. in India. For this, we have already taken steps. What type of steps, people? Are you aware about Make in India or production linked incentive scheme, people? So these are the steps we took up: Make in India, production linked incentive scheme, and so on and so forth. But the writer is saying that there's a catch with the production linked incentive scheme. It is focusing on the fact that you do some production. Hey, businessman, you come here, you set up the factory here, you do production. In return, I'll give you some incentive on tax payments. I'll give you some subsidies. I'll give you some subsidies on setting up of this factory with regard to land, with regard to exports. I'll give you some incentives, all of that. But this is also a shrewd person, The corporates are quite shrewd. What they'll do, they'll focus rather on production. And in today's time, it is easily possible that you focus on production in assembly line, you integrate technology like AI, you try to have that, okay, I'll have less labor here. You can have less labor employed here and you can still have production. And because this incentive is on production, not on generation of employment, so this can naturally be a problem for India in terms of generation of employment. This is the argument here. This is, you can mention in terms of criticisms of PLI, Make in India, employment policy of India. But I have a counter argument to it also. The counter argument is that naturally compared to manufacturing, service sector has less production of jobs. This is naturally capital intensive. This is naturally labor intensive. The AI and all the assembly manufacturer cannot replace or cannot change the nature of labor intensivity in the next 1 or 2 decades. So we should utilize this 1 or 2 decades till that time point of time, and we should maximize the generation of employment here. Apart from the fact, we should do one more thing. Look, these people who are not employed, if we provide them skills related to health, nursing, education, different sectors, है ना? If we provide them skills, can we provide them jobs here? Yes, we can provide them jobs. And this is our next article here about, this was coming up in text and context today, that why is upskilling necessary for the rural youth? Because most of these youth, as we saw in the earlier article, who were these youth? These were youth who were unemployed, having less amount of skills. Some of them might have decided to pursue government job preparation, and rarely some of them might have decided to pursue UPSC preparation also. Uh, but no, matlab, idea is that these type of, we should provide skills to these people. Bhupendra, now I would ask, have you heard of industrial training institutes? Amod, what is the functioning? You might have heard of ITIs. You might have seen ITIs in your daily life in cities. ITIs people, ITIs देखे आपने? Industrial training institutes क्या होते हैं? They just provide skills, but these skills are so basic in nature. They can't provide you the entire modernized spectrum. वो अभी भी आपको रेडियो पढ़ा रहे होंगे, रेडियो कैसे बनाना है, but not about the latest technologies. How does 5G function? How you can increase your skill in AI or robotics or machine learning or nanotechnology? These are not being taught by ITIs. They are not upgraded overall. So there are some steps which have been taken, which you can mention now in your exams as value addition point. That on these lines, we should provide skills to people in India. And yes. So there is this Kaushal Vikas Yojana, as someone has mentioned in the comment, which is about skill development. So there will be development of skills through sectoral skill councils in India, and will recognize the prior learning also with regard to schemes. And there are other schemes also with regard to, like minority communities and other such creative type of skills in creative industry. We have Manas as a scheme here. So multiple skill development initiatives. Because of lack of time today, what I just mentioned, that look what is there which you can take from this article regarding value addition points in your skill development. This skill you can mention Kaushal Vikas Yojana, but here they have mentioned a good point, that there should be effective rural education into technical skills to empower the youth, so that they can take these skills through the formal education itself. How to do it? We are also doing it through national education policy and the vocational education component in the national education policy. This we are doing. And in this, we can further take examples of Mexico tele schools. There are tele schools in Mexico utilizing the telecom overall, and they provide lessons on certain sectors like they provide value based secondary education to remote areas through the help of telecommunication. Just like we provide telemedicine, similar to those lines, we provide tele schools through the help of Mexico's tele schools initiative. So that is there. And apart from that, we should also focus on the well-being of people. If they have sufficient well-being, they don't compare themselves with the other person. So what they'll do, they'll try to develop passion for themselves in a certain skill, rather than comparing with this person, rather than judging themselves with these people, maybe with the topper of their class, and then unnecessarily going into the competitive exam scenario, or preparing just for the government jobs, losing all the passion in their life. I think many of us might be uh, relating to it. So overall, what is the idea? That they can focus on overall well-being, which also again has an impact on development of skills or overall your quality of life or your employability in future, because you are not there's no such crowd rat race going on here. Because of the rat race, maybe people might take wrong decisions and then remain remain outdated in terms of acquiring new skills, exploring new type of technologies and skills. So this is what this writer has mentioned here. Apart from this, there are certain initiatives which we can mention here, which are important to discuss. There is this initiative of NIIT and Pratham Institute. This is for again industrial training and these type of skills development. So NIIT and Pratham Institute are working with children for their upskilling for through self learning. Like NIIT is developing with UNICEF to upskill people through the help of self learning platform. And likewise, Pratham is providing some schemes, industry relevant skills here to the people. So, which report is released by Pratham NGO people here regarding which sector? So, what is the most famous report of Pratham NGO? If any of you can answer it, so that will be great in the comment section. Till then, we'll connect it now to others. Now, what is the other perspective of it? Look, we provided skills, but this is in long run. This doesn't change in one day. Education will have to be changed for it. We'll have to collaborate with industry. That means industry academia partnership has to be there. But this will also long run. This is again not in one day. Manufacturing, this is again not in one day. But those people who are already in distress, what do we provide them? Yes, Sandeep, you are right. We release ACER report. Pratham releases ACER report regarding math solving as well as reading capacity of class 2 as well as class 5 students. So do see the data which has come up, latest ACER report data that helps in your overall answer writing regarding education. So distress, what will we do when these people are in distress? What should we do then? What should we do? We'll provide some relief to them. What type of relief? Will provide some direct benefit transfers here. And this is what the next editorial is related to. How do we provide direct benefit transfer to people? When did this come up? So look, it is written here. This came up in 16th century England. Then it later on developed in Europe. That was at that point of time in 16th century England. There were various debates coming up after their enlightenment period about the social security provisions, about subsistence of people. Then in 19th century, you might be remembering, we had spread of communism inside Soviet Union and multiple protests in Europe, workers and all. So connected to that, after that, we had some benefits transfers to people who are sick. At that point of time, various debates came up that look how industrial revolution is so problematic. It is causing inequality. It is, it is causing a lot of problems to people, misery, overall slums, and so on and so forth, squalor. So this is there. Now then in mid 20th century, this was realized that it is the responsibility of the government after World Wars, particularly when we also had the Declaration of Human Rights here. So, a proper standard of life is also a type of human right, and this should be the responsibility of the government. That is why, if people are suffering, then this is the responsibility of the government to provide that. And at that point of time, you might be remembering after World War, majority countries got independent enough. So what will happen? These global south countries began to realize and then began to provide the direct benefit transfers to people. And these are actually different than what the Indian government suggests here. Look, this is clearly written here that this is different. DBTs are different than our Nyay or Kisan, PM Kisan schemes. Why? Because DBTs are often said to be universal in nature, whereas these schemes are not universal. PM Kisan is only to landowning farmers. This is not universal. And then the compensation here is not sufficient. 6,000 rupees not sufficient at all. But direct benefit transfer in terms of providing universal basic income is a different thing. And it has been now realized around the world that if you provide certain incentive in terms of some transfers, that does not make the person lazy, as this writer is also says. That actually provides, you provide that to marginalized people, universal income to marginalized people, you provide direct benefit transfer to marginalized people. Hai na, Pratiksha? What will happen then, Pratiksha? This works as a sort of ladder for these people to come out, to invest that marginal income which they got from DBT into some things like their education, like children's education, like in other types of such, health, or like investing in some seeds for better income in future. Because if someone is already marginalized, there's very less chance that they'll waste their income which they'll get through DBT into other things. Although this is also possible, this happens in context of people wasting it on alcohol in rural areas, as is often said to be about rural men, but this is not necessary. And to control this, provide money in hands of women. They are likely to spend it on their children, their education, their food. Apart from that, have conditional transfers here, as happens in Brazil. You send your children to school, you give meals, will provide some, incentive here, some cash transfer. You will be provided some food coupons. So you can have these type of initiatives. So this is the idea about direct benefit transfer. But why to have direct benefit transfer? If we have to provide food, why can't we provide food with the help of PDS, as happens in India? Why can't we just distribute the benefits? If we have to provide health, why not do it with the help of hospitals? Why this debate about DBT? That is what I want to ask people. I want answers from all of you. What is the present problem with respect to PDS, hospitals, government building schools itself, government providing all the all the resources? Because anyways, government has a lot of resources. So what is the problem because of which we are discussing direct benefit transfer again and again? That you provide transfer in the accounts of people, rather than rather than with the help of these type of initiatives of government. That is what I want to ask further. You can mention in the comment boxes. Till then, let us come to the next article. We'll again move back to the earlier one. Once the answers come up, I'll value add. But till then, let us look at the voter verifiable paper audit trail. Most of us are above 18 here. You might have voted at least once in your life. You might have seen in the EVM machine that what happens in VVPAT, when you press a button, after that there a slip comes up and it is visible to you for 7 seconds, as has been mentioned in this article also about VVPATs, that you have voted to this person from this party, and then this goes back. Now this was involved so that there is no corruption and there is no manipulation of the EVM, and the person who is voting, the voter, is able to understand that okay, which person, which party I have voted for, and they are able to have transparency here. So because of that we had, but now what is happening from a few elections, the opposition members are laying claims that these VVPATs are not impartial, they are not objective, and there is, they can be tampered with. So in this context, the case went up in the Supreme Court earlier. At that point of time, ECI, Election Commission of India, despite there being problems in appointment provisions of Election Commission of India. By the way, students, this is also going on right now. The issue, no one has answered. Why do we provide? Why do we are thinking for providing DBT, direct benefit transfer, rather than transfers, rather than implementing present schemes, PDS, or building education, building hospitals, building schools, or through government only? Just try to answer me till then. Look, ECI has problems, but still it has been a remarkable institution. Why? Because here it has again led to discussions, debates regarding VVPATs, and it has asked for VVPATs to be having some randomly selected counting of VVPAT slips. If we count the VVPAT slips here and we try to match it with the button, then we'll be able to easily understand if there is any manipulation here. So that was for that they actually consulted the Indian Statistical Institute also. That look, this is India, this is a huge country. Now, in such a huge country, we should have some provision by Indian Statistical Institute to count that how many of such counting of VVPATs can we have in this country. And based on that, the ISI gave its number that we should have VVPATs counting, poll counting of polls in these many of EVMs. But then when a petition was filed in Supreme Court, the Supreme Court tell that you don't have it, like you don't have it like one VVPAT in one assembly. You have minimum five VVPAT poll countings uh, in one assembly. And then the election commission mentioned that look, this goes beyond what had said by ISI, and this is beyond our capacity right now, because this is like going back to the era of ballot papers, counting votes by hand. That you are saying that we have so many of the polls counting of VVPAT slips in so many of these constituencies, and that becomes a logistical challenge. So this you can mention in issues associated with elections, that what are the issues associated with elections. So Harshit, welcome here. I wanted to ask about some basic, so I was discussing about this VVPATs. I have discussed issues, the controversy associated with it. And yes, Sandeep, we are right. In present schemes, there is scope of corruption. Lot of government resources are mobilized, and then there are leakages, corruption over it, poor services, overcrowding, and all of it. And that is why we are thinking for coming up of the direct benefit transfers here. Thank you, Harshit. So let's move on to the next mission. Let's move on to the next question. Harshit, have you seen this question regarding the 2014 questions, pair based question matching Cassini Huygens, Messenger, Voyager? Which of these are related to these matching up? Why am I stating this? Why am I discussing this? Came up in 2014 because there has been a news article today in the science section of Hindu stating that there are these six space missions which are remarkable for this year. And these space missions, this is very important to discuss the details of these space missions. And after discussing it, we'll close our session today. But before that, let's just discuss it. This will be very interesting. Science, always my favorite. So here, what I want to tell is that look, there is this Jupiter, there is this planet. Jupiter is a gaseous planet, है ना? What is the another term of gaseous planet here? You can mention it. What is another term we say regarding gaseous planet? You might have read it in your geography, solar system, universe, solar system portion. Just mention it in the comment boxes, Harshit. So that you can do. Okay, Harshit, you're in class 12. Nice. Keep studying. So that's there. Now, what is the mission of NASA? There is a moon of Europa, of Jupiter. So there's a moon. Now there is a very different sort of aspect in this moon. Why? Because there is a salt water ocean located here. Just like we have a salt water ocean on the earth, we have Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, we have Antarctic. So oceans are there on the earth. Likewise, beneath the surface, which is glacial, because this is far away from the sun, here is Earth. This is again far away from the sun. Less energy. This is glacier. But beneath this, there is this saltwater ocean which is available. And what we are trying to find, we are trying to find whether there is any habitability on this, whether life can survive on it. What is our present, Harshit, you can, all of you can fill the form below for one-to-one, for having one-to-one session with me. You can also fill up the form below for having the PPTs available there with regard to these type of sessions. So you can connect with me through that forms. I also I take these calls which are available with the students when students give this information, and then we guide the students. So always welcome. So this is about the Europa Clipper mission. Now second one, look, there is old mythology. There was a great god called Apollo who had a twin sister called Artemis. because we name our missions, NASA names our missions based on Indian gods, Indian. So likewise, ISRO names missions on Indian gods. Likewise, NASA missions, named after their Greek Roman mythology. So that happens. So there's a moon there. So what happened? We had manned missions earlier on the moon. Neil Armstrong going into the moon, you might be remembering. So at that point of time in Cold War, so that happened. Then afterwards, what we are having? We are again having manned missions on moon. The space race on moon has again risen. What is the space race? Look, we had Changi mission of China. We had Gaganyaan of India. We are again exploring the resources to be able to exploit maybe rare earth metals, maybe other such metals, maybe other such objects. We are trying to have these as maybe some international space center from where, some space station, from where we can launch further missions towards Mars. This is the objective. For that, there is Artemis 2, which is coming up. And this is also, we need to remember, as one of the missions, people. Now, Sandeep, I would ask about certain things. So here I would ask, which was the mission which had discovered water on the moon? What was the name of this mission which discovered water on the moon? And regarding water on the moon, because water is getting scarce on the earth also. So on the moon, there will be a mission called Viper mission, which is there for discovering of water on the moon by NASA. So this Viper, this will revolve around the moon, and then they'll try to discover what is the amount of water further. They'll try to know the content, the overall percentage of water. So people, no one is asking, no one is telling here who discovered which mission, what was the name of mission which discovered hydroxyl ions, which discovered water on the moon, people. Just tell me once. So that is there. Now this Viper will actually not sit alone. This Viper will sit on Prime. And Prime, what it will do? Viper will revolve around the moon. Prime, what it will do? On the moon itself, Prime will drill. The way we drill our Earth also. So they'll have drilling on the moon, and they'll try to have this drill to ensure resources. We have certain resources explored here on the moon. So this is the idea here. There are other two missions also. There is a mission of Japan also regarding an asteroid. Because time is running out, people, I'll explain it some other day, of JAXA. And there is another mission of Hera, called Hera, of European Space Agency. So this is on me, people. JAXA. Chandrayaan mission, very nice, Sandeep. Chandrayaan mission discovered water on the moon. So what is JAXA? What is the idea of JAXA? So they'll try to go on to the Mars moons with respect to JAXA, with the help of JAXA. And then they'll have a robotic mission to study the Mars moons, to study their atmosphere, and whether these formation of these moons happened with the help of, collision with the help with Mars, or from the material revolving around the Mars. This is the objective of JAXA. Just remember it that much for the exam. The next is more important, the Hera mission. What did it try to say? Look, we had a mission of NASA. What did it do? Suppose some object will collide with the Earth in future. What will do? Suppose there's some asteroid, some mass of rock, ice, so on and so forth. It collides. Then what will do? We'll try to divert its path. So this was one practice done in the DART mission by NASA by diverting one of the asteroids here. And this mission, Hera, will again go back to this same asteroid to study about this impact on the by the DART mission further, and have further developments. So this is there. Today, let's keep it to that much. This is one article by Suhrit Parthasarthi, but this is more of, more of with respect to the political matters. Suhrit Parthasarthi articles are good. The content is good. But again, because this is related to IT searches, political matter, I don't think this will be asked that much in the exam. So because anyways we have to finish it. It is better to finish it in time rather than keep discussing on. You have to study also, people. So let's come to little bit mapping. So there is some blast which happened in Kerman, but this will not be asked. About Iran, what is Iran saying? That will not be asked. But look at the geography of Iran. So important. There is Caspian Sea in the north. What is this area which is called, people? Can any of you mention? Can any of you mention this area? What is this called? What there is this is what is this area called? This is already mentioned. But till the answers come up, I'll mention other things. So look, who are the countries here? There is Arabian Gulf here, south of Iran. There is Saudi Arabia. We have Qatar. We have Qatar here. We have Kuwait. We have Iraq here. We have neighboring countries as Turkmenistan here, Afghanistan here, Pakistan here. And then because of the presence of two mountains, look, two mountains, Elbrus, Zagros, you have to remember it. Just like Turkey. Turkey also has two mountains, Pointus and Taurus. Both of them lift the overall land. Likewise, both these mountains lift the plateau of Iran. And when they lift, this becomes an intermountain plateau. And when something is on the heights, this is similar to Tibetan plateau. What happens in Tibet? There is so much of cold. Why? Because this is on high altitude. On high altitude, you are bound to have cold. So that is why if you see the atmosphere of Iran, it is different than the atmosphere of Saudi Arabia. Here it is hot, the lack of water is felt. But in Iran, lack of water is not felt. There is because of the difference of height. Look how geography plays an important role. And that is why in Iran, we can easily grow cashews, raisins, dry fruits. They are experts in saffrons. Iranians put saffrons in almost everything. So these type of things are there because of this intermountain plateau and two plateaus. Although there is lack of water, yes, yes, Sandeep, you are right. So in the south, there is Persian Gulf. We'll come to it, but just a minute. What is happening? There is lack of water, no such major rivers here. Just one major river, Karun River, I think, flowing into this Persian Gulf itself, from rising from the Zagros Mountains. There is one lake also, Lake of Urmia, saline lake, because often in high mountainous areas there are such lakes. So there is lake here also. Some desert areas, Dashte Kavir, Kavir Desert, and Dashte Lut, Lut Desert, with some major cities of Iran like Tehran, Mashhad, Qom. This was famous. Qom, Q for COVID. This was very famous. Here, COVID cases had risen so much. But this is not important. Let's come to the Persian Gulf era. Now, this look, it is between Saudi Arabia and Iran. It is named after Persia itself. Look how this is a strait connecting two land masses and two water bodies, Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, people. And this is Strait of Hormuz. And just at the Strait of Hormuz, there is Bandar Abbas. This is a port here. And here, Iran always deploys its military. So, look how there is so much of military presence here in the Persian Gulf. And other than that, there is so much presence of oil and natural gas in Persian Gulf, which is exploited by Iran as well as Iran's friend Qatar. Qatar and Iran are good friends. They both host sometimes the Hamas leaders, which is in news also right now. So they are friends, and this is how this is the geography. Other articles, blood management. Yes, we can just remember that the writer is focusing on hub and spokes model, but I'll not go into detail of it. Why? Because this is just one point, and anyways, regarding blood management, not much questions have been asked in mains. So this is just one pointer for your exam. That is why not mentioning it right now. And rest also regarding debt burden of India, I'll definitely discuss it someday when a detailed article or some happening comes up, some incident comes up from the government of India side. Then I'll discuss it. You know. So Harshit, nice you have submitted the form. I'll tell from the form I'll have your number and I'll call on your number so that we can connect regarding your current affairs strategy and also your UPSC strategy, because you're studying in class 12. We can discuss in detail. And further students, you can also connect with me on the form given below so that we'll be able to connect. Anyways, little bit guidance, no such harm. Thank you so much, people, for persisting through again this new streak, for completing. And thank you, Amod, Harshad, Sandeep, Bhupendra, everyone here. And we'll meet tomorrow. Till then, keep revising and keep looking at your news seriously and keep connecting it with static portions. So I'll end it. and